and whatever I see is smiling at me. Love is who I am. Hello there, beloved Ascension pioneers and all you divine lovers out there. So welcome to this video topic in my Twin Soul Divine Union playlist. This will be probably one of my most profound videos, one of my best videos on this topic, because something occurred for me last night as I went to this deep meditative state, and I received very clear insight as into what is behind the scenes on the core creation level as of this earth plane, of course being transferred to many other levels of being and dimensions, different realities. But I want to talk about this because it is so vitally important for what's taking place. So as you know, a lot of humans on this planet refer to themselves as twin flames, or beings who've come here in divine union together with someone, or beings who are here to establish the principles of divine union once again. And there's so many people right now who are doing the so-called twin flame readings, spiritual insight on the twin flame journey, on the journey of divine love. And if you by any chance are on the path of a divine lover, this simply means that you are here to reestablish the connection of the divine union, of the holy blueprint from the creation level, as in terms of how divine masculine and feminine forces of creation work together in unison. As a human, you have to go through many levels and layers basically to transcend these as initial core imprints of distortion. So what was taking place within the many storylines of this earth plane and beyond. So as I was tuning into one of those readings yesterday, and a lot of times I do that because I want to get this information that triggers my further expansion in spiritual awareness and what I'm meant to share on further with you, those of you who specifically relate to this path on such a deep level, and those of you who feel you're being called to this path. So we're all here to journey the road of self-mastery to the degree that it becomes so essential that once we choose it, it chooses us. It's an ongoing theme of interconnectedness. So a very huge part of this self-mastery for many of you is this divine union. But as I've been tuning into these readings and what a lot of people are talking about here, so let's say you have a specific reading and they talk about the masculine is behaving in this way, the feminine is doing this masculine is activating and, you know, integrating that, and the feminine is doing that. How did they come together? But I was asking myself, and especially in terms of my one of my intense previous experiences on this journey, was what is behind all of this? What is happening on the core creation level? So what happened yesterday, I was taken into this beautiful, almost transcendental meditation. I had this cosmic music playing, and I was in this beautiful floating space when I almost no longer felt my body. And I asked for the insight that relates specifically to this situation of mine that occurred for me. And I said, where did this pivotal separation point begin? And actually, I saw almost like, you know, in the movies when they're shown this, like they're going through the past timeline and they're going reverse back in the past. It was like, you know, like a replay of different movie frames, and you're being taken back to that. Where was that event that triggered those core responses? And I was shown this event that was much prior to that, which caused the separation later at hand. So the dynamics that was fed from the separation awareness. And when I was shown this, I was shown an instant response that was triggered, and how this triggered the masculine, and how this triggered the feminine. And what I was actually shown is the energy of disappointment. So as I was taken into this floaty space, I could actually feel the words. And that doesn't mean that in literal, when you're going through your experiences, you're saying those words, but the energy resonates with that particular vibration, which is the vibration of disappointment. I'm going to talk about later why this is so. But when this is emanated, this felt that this actually created this degradation between the energy dynamics. So let's say up until this point you have a beautiful floating union, and this happens, and this imprint that is actually an imprint of this human creation game playing out, that we are witnessing and experiencing at the same time, And those of us, there's many of us here that are working on core creation levels. This means that you're going to be getting core templates. You're going to be shown these things that are behind the scenes. So as much as you have many beautiful light workers and people working on more of the surface level of the scenes and what's unfolding, you are going to be guided to go beyond that, because you're here to make those restorations of those energies by being aware of them. By actually, you're being the life hacker in a way. So you're hacking these things in the matrix, like their imprints and distorted patternings. That's the whole reason for divine union. We have to go and pass those. We have to move through those, and there is no other means to get to the other side but to move through it. And a lot of the things when people say that the beings are running away from each other is because there's a lack of knowing that we need to move in it. We have to go in it. We have to go right in the middle of the event. And when things are difficult for us and a certain story unfolds, and watch from my previous video when I explained the dynamics of moving from stories to archetypes to essences and then to the core creation level, to your source self level. What's happening is that people are lacking the knowledge and the understanding that's behind the divine union. So you can't really integrate without moving into it. We integrate through direct human experience, and my latest Ascension update talks about this as well. It talks about the importance of the direct human experience without too much thinking and analytical structuring, because this actually, in our new body template or in our new awareness, it limits us. It keeps us in the old. It keeps us stuck because we're not meant to move forward in a new way as a new human. So those of us working on core levels, we're going to be shown these primary archetypes that were distorted. So this, in terms of true union, which is the mind and feminine and masculine in terms of source creation, are always in unison, are always in union. But when source starts to experience through creation and life that's unfolding through it, there's always movement in different directions, and a lot of it is learning through this experience of what happened as the primary cause that then becomes the separation. So as I was shown this scene that later, in a way, it catapulted certain events to become stories. But it wasn't about that. It wasn't about what unfolded after. It was about what actually began this. And I literally saw this expression of disappointment and how the other then responded to that, and separation started coming into place. Why is this so? Now let me get back to this, because the masculine energy on this planet has been moving too much into this, ever since what we talk about the fall and the fallen perspective, has been moving into extreme almost like denial of the feminine, the repression, the suppression of the inner female. So if you have a masculine figure and they suppress their inner female, so if they treat women poorly or disrespectfully in their present current lifetime, they're actually disrespecting and treating their inner female that way. But that's not actually the point of this video. I talked about this before. In this video, I want to go behind the root of this, what we keep repeating and what people call the runner syndrome, and all of this is because there is a sense that the divine masculine energy created a lot of, the fallen divine masculine essence created a lot of fallen creations on this planet. And the feminine, because it was repressed, it kind of resented that. And as the masculine was trying to find its way back in the whole divine equation, the feminine was all many times disappointed. So the feminine reversal, as in her side of the story, was major disappointment. And it's not just about things that were very much of the fallen nature, miscreations. Sometimes we still, in our daily life, can experience this. For example, every time we walk past here and they talk about this bug that's ruining the trees, and they're just deciding to chop them all down, because that's obviously going to solve the problem. And each time we see this still distorted masculine energy trying to control nature and think it has all the answers, and let's just do it the hard way, and wants to push through nature, almost like nature is not wise enough to create its own natural evening out and rebalancing back, because we created this, a lot of the problems in nature. So even that way, and organically and ecologically, when we experience this, we can feel that disappointment. I can feel it in my heart often when I see these people, they're just chopping trees, almost like that's gonna solve it all, because they're not going to the root. And then you're feeling this disappointed energy. And we can even feel it globally, like what's happening now with the whole new presidency. And we're disappointed by the figure that represented by the male is we perceive it as the fallen male, the distorted male, and that obviously cannot represent us. And again, what people are experiencing now, and a lot of people now talk about this, is this immense disappointment. when we feel this energy of disappointment, we have to go to the root of its primary cause. And that is why these energies separated in the first place. And I talked about this before. The fallen masculine repressed the feminine. What the feminine then a lot of times did, and we can see this in the movement of the feminism as well, oftentimes in the career women and the women who want to be just as equal as men. But it's not really about equality anymore, because then women fight for their rights. And it's not about fighting for your rights or to be equal. Then you're not equal anymore because you're already fighting for it. So again, this is not a solution, because what happens then is the feminine wants to govern the masculine. And we have a lot of distorted females who are becoming, they want to almost become as men. And a lot of times we call these women, wow, these are emasculated, you know, like very masculine women, and men are demasculated in the same way. And you have a lot of more weaker energy men, and then the women are like, oh, you're a disappointment, you know, you're a no good, or all you do is drink, or you're not supporting your family, all of that, those kind of stories and scenarios. But it's not about the stories again. What I was shown is that there won't be union until we realize this. You can have a most beautiful relationship with someone, and still the tiniest thing that's like something of balance, and for example, masculine wants to do things his own way, and let's say he gets infatuated by something. Oh, I just learned this, I just finally mastered this, and the feminine goes like, it's like, I'm not happy with this, or I'm disappointed with this. And each time we do that, the masculine feels demasculated in a way. And there is no solution in that. We have to go beyond it. How do we do it? Well, we each have to find our own creative space, sacred space to harness that. Either you do that internally within yourself, you move to your creation level, you find those missing links, and you can do that. You are a creative being. Or you do that in a sacred partnership with another, you know, whatever is offered to you, because how you do it will be presented to you through your own spirit and your physical experience as a human. So what we're doing now on this planet is we're kind of, the feminine and masculine really want to merge, as it's always in the way of ascension, is that complete union and the polarization coming into unity. And when we have these things playing out as stories, let's say you have a relationship and it comes out this story, and you think, wow, this is as bad as it can get. And then you don't know how to move back into union. You know, you only have two guidelines. When you approach anything in either kind of way, through a more creative response, it can get worse, because it can either stay the same or get better. It can't get worse than it already is when you're within separation. But you have to figure out, each one of us, whether we are doing that within our own karmic journey, as most humans are, or whether we as volunteer souls, a lot of us are here in the volunteering journey, we have taken on these imprints, because through them we're actually getting in the matter, in the root of the situation. We can't do any kind of changes and transmutation work otherwise. We have to move in it, and we have to move with it. So a lot of people talk about twin flames as being those beings who are doing lots of inner work to move through those distorted patterns, to move back into union. And I'm being shown that the huge essence we're working with right now, and an archetype being played out, and the stories now, we as humans think it's all about the stories, but it's not. It's much deeper. It's that of disappointment. So each time when the feminine and masculine are reuniting more and more, they want to move through a level of distortion that was placed there for our own learning. So when a lot of people, you know, especially in the New Age, they like to say it's all love and light, come on, twin flames, reunite, blah, blah, it's all love and light, just reunite, come on, forget about this or that. It's bigger than that. I know it sounds simple for a lot of you, but a lot of people can't just unite. They can't just, oh, it's so simple. Oh, I'm just going to get back together with someone. It's not even about getting back together with someone. It's about seeing whether you are doing that work within yourself, because you can't get back together with someone and that miscreation is still within you, and that misalignment and that lack of union and true understanding what's happening as the masculine and feminine energies want to merge. There will still be a lack of that. So if it's something I give you as an offering, or someone else, or someone gives you through a reading, it won't be a permanent knowledge. It will be a temporary. But because you haven't anchored that within you, and you're not using it, you're not embodying it, it's not an embodied wisdom and experiential mastery, then it's not going to stay. So I'm putting this now out as an offering, because it's a big one we're working with right now. And those of us who always go behind the scenes, we work on a creation level to alter these distortions. A lot of us do that through essences, and then the essence, that's the new essence that's behind disappointment, because disappointment brings this energy of, you know, whenever you're disappointed, you feel passive, you feel like there's nothing you can do about it, and we move quickly into this passive mode. And that's what we would call even the running away, moving away from each other. It's like, okay, I know there's a wisdom to doing the inner work each before coming together, but there's certain parts that I'm always shown that the masculine and feminine cannot do without doing it together, because there's certain elements that they are about togetherness. Otherwise, why would we even exist as two beings, two hands, two legs, you know, gender? That's how on earth we're coming together. So it's important. It's not about who this happens with, but at a certain point, at a certain juncture point, you will be guided to do this work also in this union with another. So when energies are returning to you, and I often teach about this, when relationships keep coming back, it's the essence that's still not integrated. So see the distorted essence, and then you as an illumined being, what's the new essence you're actually implanting there as a new seed that will grow with our new earth and our new human beingness. So what's behind this disappointment is this feeling of being passive, like there's nothing we can do about it. And then we each just wait without the courage of changing something, of altering something. And people are saying, well, I'm just waiting it out, you know. It's not about waiting it out, it's allowing it to be, because the masters always embrace things. But it's, again, it's not the same as waiting, because waiting is a passive thing. I'm going to wait for the other person to get this. I'm going to wait for this being. What if they don't? What if they never do? But when you do, you are presented with the sacred offering, with the sacred gift of illumination, that you can help things transpire and transform in a new way, in a new light. So this feeling of disappointment, I was also shown that even in coupledoms that were, for example, what we perceive as perfect. Wow, that's a perfect coupledom, right? And we take examples like Mary and Joshua. And I was shown that even with Joshua's illumination and his being and purpose being a certain way, and he left very early in the stages, and Magdalene stayed, and even there was a certain sense of disappointment. So it's no matter how much enlightened we are, our human vessel still has and craves the experience, because it's the experience of union we also want to feel in the physical. That's why now so many masters are here to finish up those cycles, to have a feeling of union without leaving or premature departures, or, you know, this lack of communication, lack of unity, lack of intimacy. Nothing can happen without a communication. But once we realize the core pattern behind it, and what actually triggered the whole thing, then we have almost like a sense of responsibility. It's not an obligation, it's more a responsibility to share it with the world, to share it with others. And I'm doing always this through my videos, because my whole mission as a creation pillar is to bring back the illumined templates of creation, rather than these distorted imprints that were almost infiltrated through the matrix. And a lot of the times they just fed more and more of that separation. Those of you who are feeling so called that within your partnership you're doing the sacred work, every single thing that comes up for reflection, don't say, oh, it's just something, it will pass, you know, it's just the energies. People like to say that, oh, it's just the energies, it's just temporary. When something continuously comes back, either through one or more relationships, observe the patterns. Okay, for example, what could I say here? When energy really wants to come back, and you will feel like you're not yet fully integrated in something, and it's still constantly repeating in your mind, and it's playing on and on, there's more there. It just means that you are integrating first on the most physical level, on the most mundane. Okay, you are doing whatever, the forgiveness work, whatever, but there's more, there's always more, and you're growing with that. So in my own experience, I had like this constant bug. This energy was just there. I was like, oh, it's not leaving me. And I know, because masters always embrace everything. It's not about cutting it away or letting it go forcefully. That's not our mission. I just simply had to embrace it as it is, until it reached this culminating point last night, when I saw that it was all about this, the feminine, because in so many disregards of the masculine, there was this sense of disappointment. And even people who feel they're so enlightened already, they still sense that. And we can't cover up these things and say, well, I'm already so awakened, I don't feel that, I'm all fine, I'm all good. You know, we have to see and look at each words we're saying, each sentence, because it's still a reflection of something that's there. It's not necessarily, like I say, for volunteers, is not necessarily coming from our own soul. We can come from fully unified levels, but for us to do the work on the human level and to be even of assistance, we have to move through the same things that others are experiencing. And that's why we take on these bodies, we take those imprints, sometimes even very difficult families. A lot of people say that specifically twin flames choose very dysfunctional families to incarnate in so they can actually do that work, because no one else would. So they're like, well, someone has to do it. We have the awareness. But, you know, to have the awareness, but still move through the human experience, which does incorporate the human heart of compassion and empathy. And I had a beautiful session today, and we talked about this, about the mission of the empathy, because I always tell you that empathy is a less developed and a little denser essence than true compassion, radical compassion. But we need empathy, because on a human level, without empathizing and feeling what another is feeling, that means you're already more evolved soul who's open to the feelings of others, not completely non-empathetic, which means that you're completely closed off and you can be so cold and aloof even. So when you are engaging through empathy, you're actually learning to become whole. You're taking those different feelings, and a lot of times empaths are absorbing them from others because it's a part of their mission. But when you become whole, when you're fully ready to become whole within you, when you take all of that, you won't need the empathy on that level any much, because it served its purpose, and you will embrace all of that with the neutrality of the radical compassion, which I always say, it's the desire to feel with others, to be compassionate. You feel with them, but you don't have to feel exactly what they're feeling. You don't have to go in it. You don't have to become a part of their experience and their story. But on the level of the bigger self, you're embracing them. It's almost like you're embracing them with your angelic wings. It feels like that. But you still have to allow others to have their own experiences. So when we move to the root, to the core, it's like all of the things we've worked before on, they somehow synthesize and they pile up, and you reach this climax point when things go like, and the bubble bursts. And that's when you will know you're doing the work on a core level, because it's not just different archetypes you're working with, but there will be one very radical. It's yesterday I actually felt on a bigger sense like masculine, feminine as pure energies, and the feminine was saying, it kept repeating, I'm disappointed, I'm disappointed, I'm disappointed. And I was just shown that it's time to shift that, because it was a part of the story playing out, but it no longer has to be. That's why we're here now, becoming new humans, showing the new way. So how do we shift that? We have to shift that energy back to joy and to unconditional love, because when we're disappointed, like I said, we become passive, and a lot of times we take the disappointment of something maybe another is still trying to figure out, and they're not still fully unified within, or they're not fully yet in love, in the state of love. And we often take that, and we take that as a burden and take it inside, and that's why we feel this disappointment. So we let it permeate into our own life, we let it bleed through, and we become disappointed with our own life then. But this doesn't help anyone. So to be an inspiration, to become a fully embodied inspiration, no longer the feminine being disappointed with the male, not always doing it the right way, not always getting it all the time, just allowing the masculine to become in its own way a strong leader within themselves by us being leaders of our own way, because we're showing the way. The feminine has strengthened herself in a more intuitive way, because that's what the feminine represents, this nurture and the feminine essence and the womb, the chalice. And that is why for so long now I keep getting the Queen of Cups archetype, and I see it in other people's readings as well. It is so prominent right now, because the feminine is really stepping up and being the empowered, intuitive, wise self. And it's not about predicaments and judgments and who's done what and the stories. She goes beyond it. The Queen of Cups is the strong feminine who sees things beyond the superficial events, beyond what transpires. But she sees with the eyes that are eternal, eternally wise and knowing of why things happen. So specifically for volunteer souls, we have these experiences so that later, when things culminate within us, when we do the proper integration, we can get insights on this core level. And when we do, it feels like, for me yesterday, it felt like everything neutralized, like my energy field changed and it altered. And when your field changes, it sends out strong ripples as well. So for me, it felt like instantly after that meditation, my life force started rising again. I could feel an upsurge of tantric energy. And I was just like, oof. You see, each time we're unifying on bigger levels. And I always tell you, and I teach this in my soul embodiment and cosmic beloved, and of course enlightened union too, all these mastery videos and courses, I teach about how union is happening always on bigger levels. So if you imagine, like, you know, different intersections of energy always spreading further and further out, and for those of you who are moving beyond just your personal levels, and you feel that even the characters you've been always playing out are for you to figure out what is the main template you're always working with. And yesterday, because I've seen that a lot of the males I've been working with in my life, and I always say I've been working with them, it's not just having an experience, I also worked. These were my projects on a bigger level. And I've seen that a lot of times they carried over that energy that their parents, especially their mothers, were disappointed at them. And that's the burden that the feminine carries, being disappointed with the males, not being there for them always, not providing. Or even, I talked about this a lot, when the man even goes to seek his enlightenment in the cave and goes away, and the feminine again is left alone with children. So just this week I got these new cards, tarot cards from Osho. And one of the stories that came up was that of the Buddha, and how he was planning to leave on the search and the quest for his enlightenment. And he had a day newborn son and his wife. And he wanted to go check in the boy, but he said, oh no, if I do, then I'll be tempted and I won't go, and I can't. He wanted so badly, but he didn't. And he said, well, then I see my wife, and what if I see her and she convinces me back? Oh, you know, so he just left. After 12 years or so, he returned, you know, and he faced them again, and that's a beautiful story. And the wife asked him, well, why did you leave? You know, why? Did you not trust me? That, you know, did you think that I would just prevent you from following your quest? What did you think? And he said, no, it's not that I didn't trust you. I didn't trust myself. And then he explained the same way to the son. And he actually said that all this enlightenment he was pursuing on the outside was basically had the same opportunity to be realized at home where he was, within his house or his family. So he saw that it was within, it wasn't without that he was seeking, but he had that experience. So a lot of the times that again reminded me of that disappointment of the masculine doing things his own way. So it's like if there was a distortion and a suppression of that feminine within the masculine, then the rising of that would need to come as an inner realization. Otherwise it's just a temporary experience. It's not permanent. So when women say things to their men like, oh, you should do it this way, or why don't you do it this way, in terms of telling them what to do because they lack in trusting them that they for themselves need to figure things out and have their own quests and journeys, it actually helps to speed up the process. If you don't engage with that disappointed energy, you just let them do their own thing, because you don't know always what's in behind the scenes for someone else. You might have your own vision and you go like, did I know? You tell someone off and something else comes into being, and you won't know that without communication. And there's a lack of communication on both sides. Actually, it's not just this or that. Or when I talk about this disappointment coming from the feminine, I'm not saying that the feminine's here to blame. The feminine energy's got it all wrong. No, it's always, because in creation they're always balanced. So if one goes like this, the other one goes like that, and they're swaying like this until they fully balance out. So what this means is that they're equally responsible for coming back into wholeness and union, because one response created the other response. But what I'm saying is it will have a ripple effect if we keep on going that way. And this constant disappointment that's also, like I say, reflected to us, because things are always personal. They're first felt within, then in personal intimate relationships, and then in the global world at large. First through communities, and then in world at large, and then it's becoming a much bigger picture as well. So we have to realize that what's going on every time when you feel the energy of disappointment. What are you truly disappointed with? What's behind it? Is it because the expectation was not met? Is it because you're carrying over memories of lifetimes and lifetimes that we do? Because they're all in the great Akasha, these memories. But we can, like I said, and I teach this in my astral, crystalline, and Akashic levels of mastery video. It's a free mastery course online on YouTube. It's just that we can even transcend those levels and we move back into this blank slate. And that's what's happening now, first wave with those who are realizing and doing that inner work, and then with those who are following. So what I'm sharing here is a sacred offering that's not just a reading like what's happening, you know, the masculine's doing this, having dark night of the soul, feminine's doing this, she's empowered, blah blah, queen of her world. Yeah, it might be on certain aspects, but it goes deeper. It's much deeper. So every time you're getting insights, but you feel like something's still pressing at you, it's not done yet, there's more. And do ritualistic approach. And this is what I did yesterday. I wanted more insight. After watching this reading, I said, I want more insight. I really want more insight, but what's behind it? And when you ask, it means that the energy was there anyway. It was already there in your awareness. But with the asking, you are stepping into it. It's not like a prayer, like, please help me see this, you know, God. You're actually asking for what's already there, and you're aligning with it when you ask. So this work is very sacred. And sometimes, even if we weren't on the planet, even if you never had incarnations on this planet, for example, you come straight from other realms, you still went through layers and layers of what it means to be on Earth, what it means to have an earthly body and experience, and you are just as part of this game as everyone else. So it's not really mature when people are saying, oh, I'm a starseed. This doesn't concern me. I don't need to do that. These are human things. It's like, okay, but what are you now? You're human, right? So you will recognize this in your journey if you feel like you were constantly challenged with the beloved journey. But what you're actually doing, your basic templating work, is on this essence level self. So I was shown with all my projects and all the men I've met, a lot of them were really reactive towards that energy of disappointment. When they feel like they failed, in a way, then they start feeling they're not good enough, then they start, like I said, feeling emasculated, and then their life force will start to feel like it's oppressed, even if you didn't mean it in a bad way, for example. But it will trigger memory, ancient memory within them, which is good, because that ancient memory needs to be triggered so they will see what's actually there, that they do the healing work. If you have energy of disappointment or sadness or sorrow anywhere, it's there. And the physical body will want to push that energy forward. So I have this point here in the my upper back, and it's like a tiny little point. And once in my life, I even fell. It was in winter. We did the snow tire, you know, thing, dropping, and it kind of bumped and it kind of flipped in the air, and I fell exactly at this point. It was in winter when muscles are even more contracted, so it was kind of a bad injury. And this point gets activated again, and I asked my massage therapist, and she said, yeah, that's the point of sadness, you know, when the body didn't get the chance to really grieve something or experience that immense, you know, gosh, things that happen here, and the earthly, it's not even anger. She said, like, sometimes even this wild rage because of why things the way they are, and we need to grieve them. We need to feel them, because otherwise, if they're not fully felt, that will be translated on and projected with the others, which again can become this energy of disappointment. So when we're not disappointed with our own lives, when we're fully whole within ourselves, that's no longer going to be an issue. We will simply see others as they are. And I've shared this with you before, that I had this beautiful gift in my life, because what was in the middle and before my awakening, even what started this whole thing, was this relationship I had that I planted for myself to experience attached human love. And I always tell you that all these are forms of love. Neither are good or bad. Oh, that's not even love. Well, it is a form of love that we can, you know, feel as humans. It's almost like I always tell you that you have many layers in how energy starts to descend and becoming our physical experience. And when you look at it like celestial deities, you know, Neptune, higher spiritual universal love. We have Jupiter, the love of soul expansion. We have Venus, sensual awakening, spiritual love, and human, our human experience in the body. And the human is a translator for all these energies, but they have to come through the column of synthesis, of unified synthesis, in a way, how to say it. So that's when it's really solid. You can't tune into all. It's not this or that. And by hacking into those programs and what's behind the whole separation of the masculine and feminine, then you're really doing this work. And it's our responsibility, those of us who have knowledge that extends this earthly field that goes far back into the galactic history, which we're all a part of. It's just that some have a more activated memory of all playing out, and therefore we feel more responsibility for it, because those with the knowledge always carry more responsibility. It's just how it is. But that doesn't mean it's all up to us. We can spread messages, we can put these things out, we can engage, we can uplift, But then everyone has to do that specifically within, like I said, otherwise it's just given to you, a knowledge, a true knowledge, which is, you know, in truth is really wisdom. It cannot be given to you. It can be activated within you, can be sparked up by another, but it will really become a permanent experience of your eternal self when you activate it within you, when you do the inner work of alchemy. So that was what I had to share today. Probably there's more, but when I'm going in it, you know, within my processing and reflection, it's not always what comes out then in the video, because words are engaged and it is what it is. So I try to make it as best transmission as possible. But this really is the important thing, is that the feminine dissolves this feeling of abandonment, and because of feeling abandoned we have this disappointment, and that's why the feminine needs to evolve her divine masculine, that she feels supported by her inner masculine, and that the male, the masculine, again develops and uplifts back his inner feminine, and how he again reaches back to that compassion if it's lacking still in the equation. And then when they come together, they each need to be whole unto themselves already. Otherwise, full mirrors who are pure magnetic force of creation, they can't be, because the force is so magnetic that whenever something is distorted, it will keep doing this. So it will keep pushing them in separate ways until they unify. So it's just how it is. So you can run away from it, but you can't run away from true knowledge, this creation wisdom. It is as it is. The more we're trying to run away from it, we're not actually doing anything. We might have some epiphanies along the way, but there's a difference between knowledge that's understood and that which is applied and becomes embodied, mastering wisdom. So a lot of times people in these processes and these unions that are partial unions will say, yeah, I get that, but it will be still a mental comprehension and won't yet be fully embodied. And that's, again, when people would say things to you, but they're not in full integrity. Remember, when you integrate, you're in integrity. These are the same things. When you're not, you're still lacking your self-integrity, and there's aspects of you that want to reunite with you in wholeness. So you're going to continuously move along, and sometimes people search their whole lives and they go around the planet and they move into astral streams, but they are not finding it because it's not out there, like the Buddha already said. It's about us doing that and really doing the merge as consciously as we can. So it's important that it's not just mentally approached and understood. If something still feels, you might say to someone, yeah, I get it, but why am I still not feeling it? Because it's not integrated yet. Like you might say to someone, okay, I should forgive you because I'm so spiritual, but you feel there's still feelings. You have to express those feelings and you have to communicate them out. Repressing and lacking in communication will not really do that work of synthesis and union. So that's it for today. It's one of my biggest twin soul back to unity mastering polarity videos ever. I guess it's a completion of everything. It's been 9 years in a universal cycle and our mini earthly cycle, but it's a big one. So for me, I've been seeing that there was a 9 even present in the number of these projects, how I call them, and I was like, interesting. And with this last one, I really got this completion and moved back into the core essence of what was here in the behind the scenes. So it's time to take charge back into our power of the equalized masculine and feminine within and without. So I greet you in that space of divine unity. I love you all so very much. Please share the joy and love for this process. Do it whenever you're confronted with something. Confront it, deal with it in an open space of your open heart. And remember, each heartbreak shouldn't be projected from the past experience and into the future. It's an ongoing loop cycle. But each heartbreak is actually an illumination, because each heartbreak is a heart opening if you allow it to be. If you don't close up, then you're not, again, moving anywhere and you're not doing the inner integration. So I hope you're well. I love you all so very much. With much love, wisdom, and power as always. I'll talk to you soon. And that's it for today. Love you lots. Bye-bye.